They say the oldest maps are not written in ink but in bone and stone, etched into the forgotten veins of the earth. Somewhere deep in the uncharted folds of the Hindu Kush, beneath layers of centuries-old ice and rockfall, lies a city no official expedition has dared to name, a city whispered of in apocryphal texts, hinted at in forbidden scrolls that vanish from monasteries under cover of night. It is not merely ancient, it is pre-human, and it was not built for men. The first mention came not from an explorer but a dying linguist. Durat Velium, fluent in 9 dead languages, was found rambling in a mountain cloac in northern Tajikistan. His final words, recorded by a nurse who didn't speak Latin, were later translated. The bones are not buried, the city breathes. It watches. What he saw, no one knows. But his journal, recovered posthumously, included a map that shouldn't exist, tracing a route through terrain deemed impassable for over 100 years. Along the margins were symbols, not letters but glyphs, elongated, geometric, and disturbingly symmetrical. They matched no known ancient language, except one. It was Dr. Ibrahim al-Qazwini, a controversial antiquarian dismissed by mainstream academia, who first linked these symbols to the ancient Book of Oga, an occult manuscript banned by both the Vatican and the Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities. The book, supposedly dictated by a Nephilim king, speaks of Zimra-Nu, the stone-clad city where those who fell from the sky taught the tall ones to bind thought into matter. Scholars claim it's myth, but al-Qazwini cross-referenced satellite anomalies, infrared scans, and seismic patterns to reveal a peculiar consistency. An octagonal basin, 6,000 meters above sea level, where no natural basin should exist. The only way in was through a chasm known locally as the mouth of the world, a sheer drop guarded by jagged ridges and avalanche-prone slopes. Al-Qazwini's team vanished in 2003. Officially, their helicopter crashed, but leaked footage, swept from the internet within days, showed strange monolithic structures buried under snow, resembling rib bones half the size of redwoods. One frame showed an obelisk protruding from the ground, carved with the same glyphs found in Vellum's journal and the Book of Og. Just before the footage was erased, an anonymous voiceover said one line: "The city was not abandoned, it was sealed." Sealed from what? And why? Here the trail goes cold, officially. But in 2011, a private mercenary group known only by the acronym MOSS, allegedly backed by a European banking cartel, launched a covert excavation in the same area. No press, no permits, just whispers in mining communities that men with strange instruments had arrived and that people who spoke too much disappeared. Then came the earthquake. Local seismographs picked up tremors that shouldn't have happened, rhythmic, patterned, almost like a language. Some said the mountain was groaning, others said it was singing, but what followed was worse. Black rain. A fine soot fell from the sky for 3 days, disrupting electronics and leaving a metallic taste in the air. When questioned, officials blamed volcanic ash from a non-existent eruption. But in one blurry video, later dismissed as fake, a massive stone doorway appears in the mountainside, half buried and pulsing faintly with light. An independent journalist, Andrei Solonovich, attempted to follow the path laid out in Vellum's journal. His notes, mailed posthumously to a colleague, described labyrinthine stone corridors, ceilings too high for human architecture, and symbols that rearranged themselves when not observed. He wrote of pressure changes, disembodied whispers, and statues with proportions impossible by human skeletal standards. One line repeated in his notes: "This place is not a ruin, it is a prison." 2 weeks after his disappearance, a fragment of a stone tablet surfaced in the black market antiquities trade. Carbon dating was inconclusive. Some labs returned dates exceeding 40,000 years, while others returned no reading at all, as if the artifact refused measurement. But the glyphs were undeniable, a direct match to both the Book of Og and the obelisk footage. Its inscription translated loosely to, "We bound them with star iron, let no man speak the 9th name." the ninth name. That phrase appears only once elsewhere, deep in the untranslated section of the Voynich manuscript, cross-referenced by a fringe scholar who was later discredited after claiming the manuscript's ink resonated under lunar eclipse. But the pattern was clear: disparate sources from opposite ends of the earth, all referencing a sealed city, a fallen race, and forbidden knowledge tied to immense size and immense danger. Modern archaeologists avoid the subject entirely. Those who mention it speak of careers ruined by invisible hands, funding pulled, licenses revoked, research mysteriously vanishing. The truth, it seems, has guardians, or jailers. But a new expedition, privately funded and shielded by shell companies, is already underway. Using drones, quantum imaging, and AI-enhanced linguistic models, they hope to uncover what lies beneath the glacial folds of Zimra Nu. What they find may not be dead, it may not even be asleep. Already, early scans have shown voids, chambers too geometrically perfect to be natural, and something else, faint energy signatures that defy known physics. No heat, no motion, just a low-frequency pulse like a heartbeat. And it's accelerating. But now the transmissions have stopped. The last drone sent into the basin never returned. Its final image was corrupted, except for a single frame showing a colossal hand, not made of flesh, but obsidian and iron reaching from a stone alcove. A hand with 6 fingers. No government has acknowledged the expedition, but global magnetic anomalies near the site have spiked. Earthquakes ripple out in concentric circles, and just last week a hidden chapter of the Dead Sea Scrolls was revealed to contain a warning. The watchers shall rise where the sky meets stone, and the blind shall see the old shapes once more. And yet no one speaks openly. Just silence, denial, and fear. The kind of fear that lives in blood memory, the kind that whispers across generations, warning us of tall shadows and deep places. Because if the city of giants is real, then what was locked away beneath it is waking. The key is broken, but the door remembers its shape. The coordinates had not changed, but the mountain had. The ice, once centuries thick, was melting at a pace too rapid to blame on global warming alone. What lay exposed beneath the retreating glacier was not stone, not ruin, but design. Towering staircases that ascended into nothing, hollow spires half sunken into blackened ice, patterns in the rock that bore no resemblance to erosion, only to intention. Mathematical precision over organic decay. From orbit, the site now reflected light at irregular intervals, like a signal caught in stone. Satellites trained on the area reported unknown interference, bursts of radiation matching no solar flare activity, yet pulsing with an eerily consistent rhythm, a 13-second interval, repeating like a drumbeat. One retired NASA technician, speaking anonymously, described the phenomenon as a countdown written in light. A recovered drone, one of the early scouts lost weeks prior, was returned, found inert in a shepherd's field hundreds of miles from the basin. Its internal logs had been magnetically wiped, yet one file remained, a corrupted audio loop only 2 seconds long, a whisper. Reversed and slowed, the words were almost clear. We never left. Authorities claimed it was a hoax, but the metadata said otherwise. Then came the glyphs. Not in the ruins, but in the minds of those who had been near the basin. Dreams infected with spirals and sigils. One scientist drew them in her sleep. Another carved them into his own skin before vanishing into the mountains barefoot. A psychiatrist brought in to study the survivors referred to the phenomenon as cognitive encoding, but his report was seized and his license revoked within days. Worse still were the reports of scale. Excavators believed they had uncovered a wide stairwell descending into the mountain, but upon closer examination, the steps were each nearly 4 feet high, too large for any normal human stride. The tunnels beyond were proportioned for beings twice our size, doors 20 feet high, ceilings 40, and then the murals. etchings in the wall showing elongated figures, arms too long, skulls conical, eyes sunken and immense, and beside them men, tiny, bowed, kneeling. The murals depicted more than worship. They showed machines, complex, impossible mechanisms, surrounding a central object, a cube suspended in mid-air, ringed by symbols that burned into the eyes. No matter the angle, no matter the camera, those who looked at the cube's image too long began to hear what one man described as a low, growling chant inside my bones. Another began speaking in languages he never studied. One phrase repeated again and again, in phonetic Akkadian, Zimra shall open. Back in Europe, the Vatican had grown silent. The Libreria Apostolica closed its archives without explanation. One cardinal, shortly before disappearing, issued a cryptic public address warning against interfering with those who built the world before the flood. Behind the scenes, secret orders began moving again. The Templars, the Black Sun Circle, even whispers of the AA resurfacing in intelligence chatter. Someone or something had been activated. The further the expedition pushed into the city, the less sense it made. Time dilated. Watch batteries failed. Shadows moved contrary to the sun. A camera feed once showed an empty hallway, until, for a single frame, something massive passed by in the dark. 12 feet tall, not bone, not flesh, something in between. The signal cut out for 20 minutes. Artifacts retrieved from the inner chambers defied analysis. A spherical object with interior moving parts, spinning endlessly despite no source of power. A metallic rod that rang like crystal when touched and caused involuntary muscle tremors in anyone nearby. And a slab of black stone that no tool could scratch, engraved with a single phrase, "We made man in imitation." Now the whispers grow louder. Across the globe, seismic activity echoes in harmonic resonance with the pulses from the basin. Volcanoes long dormant now tremble with unseen pressure. Animals flee regions where no danger is visible, and in remote monasteries, Tibetan, Coptic, and Sufi, elders gather for rituals not performed in over 1,000 years. Their warnings are not in words, but in silence. One of the last expedition members to make it out, identified only as Elias, posted a single message to a hidden forum before vanishing. They weren't the first civilization, they weren't even the second, but they were the last to control time. His footage showed a device, conical, crystalline, suspended between two massive stone rings. Around it, petrified giants in kneeling positions, as if frozen mid-ritual. One reached out with a finger broken off at the tip. The wound looked fresh. The footage ends with a final phrase, uttered in terrified breath. "They're not statues." Then static. No one knows what the true purpose of the lost city of giants was. A temple? A prison? A machine? Or something worse? An ark. One not meant to escape the flood, but to survive beyond it. An ark filled not with animals or relics, but with beings that predate myth, sealed beneath the flesh of the earth until man had forgotten them. But now memory returns, and with it, the mountains groan once more. And beneath the ice, the heartbeat accelerates. The old blood rises, the new sun sets, and still the door opens. They had descended far past what the charts showed. The expedition's instruments failed to measure depth now. Compasses spun in slow, deliberate circles. GPS refused to lock. Communication with the surface was no longer possible. Yet something, some instinct rooted deeper than language, kept the remaining crew moving forward. Deeper. Down spiral steps hewn into the obsidian bone of the mountain. The air was still, and yet each breath seemed too loud, too alive. The walls were no longer just stone. They pulsed faintly, like cooled lava that still remembered heat. Etchings glimmered in invisible ink, only revealing themselves under total darkness. One symbol, repeated often, resembled an eye split vertically by a jagged line. It was always carved higher than all others. Even the glyphs bowed to it, and when one explorer, desperate and trembling, dared trace it with his finger, he collapsed instantly, blood running from nose and ears, whispering, "It sees." In a chamber shaped like a colossal ribcage, the team found the remnants of what could only be called a throne, towering, carved not of stone or metal, but a material with the texture of fossilized bark and the sheen of liquid mercury. Set into the back was an indentation, perfectly circular, humming faintly, with a frequency just below human hearing. It resonated in the bones, made teeth ache and memories bleed into each other. One man claimed he remembered being born and dying in the same instant. Then came the dreams. Not illusions, but broadcasts, visions shared by all remaining members of the crew, each confirming what the others saw. An ocean of stars, cities suspended in orbit around a red sun, and beings tall, impossibly tall, standing at the edge of an abyss, their arms raised, chanting in a language that defied sound. Below them, Earth, or something like it, new and raw. A world being shaped not by nature, but by will. They awoke in unison, screaming, and one by one the markings appeared on their skin, not ink, not scar, something deeper, like a script tattooed into the soul. A spiral at the base of the neck, a line of dots running from temple to jaw, and behind the eyes, the sense that something had entered with the knowledge, something watching. In the next chamber, they found the fossils. Except these had not turned to stone, they had not aged at all. Skeletons twice as large as any known human, perfectly preserved, curled into fetal positions around immense metallic eggs. Not machines, not quite. Structures whose form suggested purpose, but whose purpose defied all attempts at classification. Inside one was a fluid that shimmered in the dark, a droplet suspended in air. When approached, it turned toward them. A scientist attempted to touch it. He did not scream, he simply stopped existing. Where he stood, only his boots remained, smoking faintly. No heat, no explosion, just erasure. The remaining crew fled back into the corridor, but the door behind them had vanished, replaced by smooth, unbroken wall. It wasn't the city shifting, it was the space itself that warped. The structure was not built to be understood. It was alive, a labyrinth that responded to thought, fear, and intention. Now split from one another, each explorer faced different illusions or truths. One saw himself speaking with a mirror of himself, only taller, eyes empty. Another walked through a library of living scrolls, each one screaming in a different forgotten tongue. And one, just one, found the chamber that had no door, yet could not be exited once entered. Inside, a single word glowed on the floor: awaken. Outside the mountain, satellite surveillance captured something impossible. The snow and rock began to rise, not collapse, but rise upwards into the air, levitating, shifting, as if the mountain itself was rearranging its bones. The basin around it began to sink, revealing concentric terraces like those described in Plato's tale of Atlantis, but on a scale far beyond anything human. Geologists were silenced. Meteorologists called it a magnetic inversion anomaly, but in private the term used was reformation. Then the signals began. Not radio, not light, but gravitational ripples. Artificial, rhythmic, encoded. Physicists had no model to explain it. The pulses echoed through the Earth's mantle, passing directly through planetary mass. Someone, or something beneath this city was broadcasting, calling. And elsewhere in the world, ancient monuments responded. Stone vibrated, pyramids resonated. Obelisks cracked open to reveal internal chambers that hadn't existed before. An encrypted document leaked from CERN referenced non-terrestrial harmonic convergence, linking the Zimra NU site to other locations aligned with stellar constellations no longer visible from Earth. The implication was staggering. Either Earth's rotation had been altered, or those stars had once been nearer. A hypothesis emerged. The giants were not native to Earth. They were seeders, custodians, or jailers. One survivor, blind, broken, and aged decades in days, was found wandering the steppe. He spoke a single sentence over and over until his death. They remember the flood, and they know we built the dam. No one could explain it, but nearby a rock wall melted like wax to reveal a tunnel spiraling into the earth, where machines older than language ticked softly, awaiting activation. Meanwhile, electromagnetic disturbances ripple across the globe. Planes rerouted, telescopes blinded, Earth's magnetic poles fluctuate unnaturally, animals migrate in reverse, and deep beneath the Pacific, a second signal answers the first. Back at the mountain, the throne chamber now stands open. The resonance is no longer faint, it roars, and through the mist, a silhouette stirs. Not man, not statue. A figure covered in runes that rewrite themselves, eyes glowing with the light of a dead star. A being neither past nor future, but returning. It raises its hand. The glyphs ignite. The sky fractures. The figure did not speak. It did not need to. Its presence alone made language irrelevant. Those who remained within the city's shifting corridors felt it immediately. A low-pressure sensation, like standing beneath an ocean of invisible weight. Reality itself seemed thinner in its presence, as though the fabric of the world strained to hold its shape. The glyphs lit one by one along the walls, floor, and even the explorer's skin. They were no longer passive observers. They had become part of the architecture. The city was recognizing them, categorizing them, binding them to protocols older than history. Their bones ached with something deeper than pain. Ancestral resonance. A calling they were never meant to answer. Above ground, the mountain cracked like an egg. Satellite footage, classified within minutes, showed an eruption of light, not fire, casting impossible shadows across a 100-mile radius. Snow sublimated instantly. Entire glaciers melted as though touched by a second sun, but no heat registered. What emerged from the fissure was not smoke, but structure. Colossal pillars arranged in spirals, forming what appeared to be a temple or a transmitter. At the center of this revealed monument stood a platform, suspended above the abyss. Upon it, the figure knelt, not in worship, but in calibration. As it moved, symbols around the temple shifted and rotated, aligning with stars no longer visible from Earth. Every gesture was code, every motion ritual. Something was being recalibrated, not in the city, but in reality itself. Global sensors recorded a synchronized anomaly. Gravitational readings dropped by 0.007% for exactly 13 seconds across the entire planet. Clocks lost time, but only astronomical clocks. Atomic instruments remained unchanged, suggesting time itself had hiccuped, not due to mechanical error, but at a universal level. A system-wide recalibration initiated from beneath the Hindu Kush. The survivor known as Elias reappeared, though by all accounts he had died in part 2. He was found in an abandoned monastic ruin 800 kilometers away, skin covered in fresh inscriptions identical to those in the city. He had no memory of escape, only dreams. The throne was not empty, he whispered. We just forgot how to see who sat upon it. Hours later, he dissolved into dust during a solar flare that no observatory recorded. Within the temple, the explorers who remained encountered the central chamber, spherical, humming with harmonic tones that shifted as they breathed. No walls, no ceiling, just energy, vibrating across frequencies known to alter perception and memory. One described it as standing inside a thought too large for the human mind. The center of the sphere contained the eye, the same vertical split sigil now carved into their bones, but this was no symbol. It was watching. One man stepped forward, compelled. He spoke a word no language knew, but every cell in his body understood. Instantly the eye widened. A shock wave of silence swept outward, an impossible concept made real, the sound of silence as impact. Light folded inward. Several explorers vanished, not with violence, but as if they had never been. The city had edited them out. What came next cannot be explained by footage or record. Cameras failed, memory fractured, but the survivors reported seeing the Earth from above, not from the sky but from a vantage point that revealed its circuitry. Ley lines glowing, pyramids humming, volcanoes blinking like nodes. The planet was not a rock, it was a mechanism. And Zimra Anu was not a city, it was the control center. Ancient texts now made sense in hindsight. The Book of Enoch, the apocryphal chapters of Jubilees, Sumerian accounts of the Anunnaki, all fragments of an overwritten operating system, scraps of corrupted software left behind by a departing intelligence or a quarantined one. The city was not a tomb, it was a firewall. And yet, something had failed. The firewall was weakening. The throne had awakened. The countdown had ended, and across the world, dormant monoliths began to pulse. One in Baalbek, another beneath Lake Vostok, a third previously undetected beneath the sands of the empty quarter, all emitting the same tone, the tone of return. Governments scrambled, power grids flickered, AI systems, previously stable, began generating cryptic images and messages of impossible landscapes, twisted titans, cities inverted within spheres. A single recurring message appeared across all languages, all screens, all time zones. Protocol 9 confirmed. Initiate phase memory. And in that moment the deepest truth emerged, not in words, but in feeling. We were not just the descendants of giants. We were their residue, the echo of their technology. Our civilizations, languages, even religions were iterations of a forgotten program, now reactivating. And as the eye turned skyward, toward a star long believed dead, it pulsed once. A signal was sent. In the silence that followed, a shape passed behind the moon. Too large, too slow, too deliberate. Observatories went dark. The Vatican sealed its archives again, and those who had touched the glyphs began to dream, not of the past, but of what was coming back. What had been locked away in time was almost home. The giants return not as kings, but as architects come to finish what was never meant to end.